What is happening here? Are there reports of feeding going on that municipalities are not acting on? So if reports are coming in and they sit there in Cyberville and there's not any active investigation being done, then you're not going to mitigate that.
Welcome back to another episode of A Closer Look across the Village Media Network, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Closer Look podcast.ca is the website. By the way, thanks to the hordes, and I mean hordes of people who have signed up to get our daily newsletter. We appreciate that and hope that you are enjoying getting them 6 days a week. With Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. How's your head today?
Good question. I haven't taken any Tylenol yet today, but most days I have a bit of a headache that sometimes requires some Tylenol. But today's been exciting, but not to the point where I had to take any pills. But Tylenol is definitely what everybody's still talking about.
It's crazy. The engagement from yesterday's interview with Dr. Dareen El-Char from the Ottawa Hospital, off the charts, crazy. Everyone has an opinion.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, you know, Donald Trump says something and everybody wants to understand more about it. And, you know, I think of a lot of things when I think, well, this is the story where, just to refresh everyone's memory, President Trump said that there's a connection between Tylenol use by pregnant women and autism in children. There's no credible evidence of that at all. There's no scientific evidence of that at all. But now it's official government policy. The FDA put out a statement.
They did.
You know, the day he announced it.
Yeah.
They want to put a warning label on Tylenol now?
Yeah. So officially from the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Admin today initiated the process for a label change for acetaminophen to reflect evidence suggesting the use of acetaminophen by pregnant women may be associated with an increased risk of neurological conditions such as autism and ADHD in children. And that came out Monday.
And it's fascinating because then you have the health authorities on this side of the border, Health Canada, putting out an opposite statement, saying that it is, it's been used by millions of people over decades, including pregnant women and women who are breastfeeding, with no adverse effects. There's no link between that and any conditions such as autism. So you have these two reputable – Health Canada is a reputable organization. The FDA, you'd think, is a reputable organization. Two different policies, two different ideas. And, you know, and we had this conversation with Dr. El-Char yesterday just about what it's like to be of someone like her who's such an expert on this topic and deals with high-risk pregnancies. That's her day-to-day job. She's helping women who are dealing with high-risk pregnancies. And just the shock that she had in seeing that the president would make comments like this.
And take it for what it's worth, but the FDA does fall under the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services is Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yes, absolutely. So it's definitely a talker. We've had a ton of engagement on that interview. And I think people are learning a lot from listening to it. What kind of stuff were they saying?
Well, we had hundreds of comments right across the platform, so I kind of went in and picked the ones that had the most engagement. Again, we're not picking any sides on this. This is strictly the ones that had the most activity and engagement. From Barry Citizen, reading on our barrytoday.com site, I find it very hard to believe and understand that anyone would believe one word coming out of Trump's mouth or RFK Jr.'s. Surely people know that neither of them have any scientific or medical education or expertise. Shake my head.
That's how they wrote "shake my head."
SMH. That's
is that what that means? Look at you. You know all the acronyms. That's good.
I'm hip. Not even close to hip. EMM writes, as someone with Asperger's, now known as autism spectrum disorder, I get really tired of seeing neurotypicals make random and sometimes wild assumptions about what causes autism. If I could change anything, it wouldn't be about the cause. It would be finding ways for autistic people to live meaningful, fulfilling lives full of happiness.
That's a great comment.
That is a great comment.
And Dr. El-Char touched on that as well.
Absolutely. And finally, Sweet Jane, the makers of Tylenol, need to sue that poor excuse of a president.
Well, that should be one of our podcast episodes. You can just imagine the lawyers line. Although in this day and age, no law firm wants to go against the Trump administration. No. We see what happens to those law firms. I shouldn't laugh. But yeah, I mean, you'd think, I mean, I think their stock price totally plummeted the first day. And then it kind of rebounded a bit. But you just think of like a brand, like brands are obviously very protective of their brands, right?
For sure.
They don't want any negative publicity. But I can't imagine something worse for a brand than this. Like, I'm trying to remember a brand that took such a beating within 1 hour of something happening.
Can't imagine.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So like we said yesterday, this story still developing and of course far from over.
Yeah. And if you missed the episode, I would highly recommend watching it.
Yes.
It's nice to speak to someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
Okay, to today's show, and sometimes in this business, you have to pivot at the last minute, and today's a great example of that.
Absolutely. We've been at this for a few months, the daily podcast, and I don't want to say hectic. It's been a great pace. We've been doing a lot of great shows, I think, a lot of interesting interviews, but there's going to be those times when someone cancels at the last minute, and we had that happen this afternoon as we record for tonight's show. We're going to get that person on next week. And so we are pivoting a little bit, but we were talking just the other day about coyotes again, which is an issue that we talked about on our previous version of this podcast. A lot of communities around Ontario are seeing sort of an uptick in coyotes in neighborhoods, right? There's been attacks on pets. There have been just concerns over just the amount of just sightings of coyotes right near people's backyards, in their backyards. Just this week, our team at Aurelia Matters reported on 2 families that had their pets attacked. One, their cat died, and the other was badly injured, and the vets, looking at the bite wounds, assumed that was a coyote attack. In York region, just north of Toronto, there's people say it's out of control. Like there's places in that part of the province where they're everywhere. And of course, downtown Toronto with the construction of Ontario Place is still dealing with this issue. It's one of those ones that just won't go away.
Yeah. And if I recall from our interview with Leslie Sampson, who we're going to roll a clip from shortly from Coyote Watch Canada, a lot of it has to do with the geography, the terrain. And that's why a couple of years ago, Burlington was a prime area. Its proximity to water, the natural habitat around that area, just a perfect breeding point
for sure.
Ground for it.
And I think some people, you don't want to point the fingers, but there was also the concern that some people are kind of encouraging the coyote. There's some are leaving food out, and so there's the idea of how you kind of wildlife proof your property. But the bottom line is it's scary. Just looking at the photos of these coyotes, if you come into one of those in your backyard, you're not going to be feeling too good. So because of the last minute pivot, we're going to revisit that conversation with Leslie, a lot of interesting advice she has and some good perspective that we might not think about.
All right, Leslie Sampson from Coyote Watch Canada. Leslie, if we can talk safety for a second, I know if you have a bear encounter, I think the thing is you're supposed to back away and wave your arms and make noises. I read a story a few weeks back about a lady who was out for a morning run and encountered a coyote. What should we do? What is the best practice if we happen to run into one?
Yeah, I mean, depending again, where are we talking? If a coyote's in the field hunting, I think we need to leave wildlife alone. If you're out running on a trail, the first thing you need to do is stop running. Dogs will chase people. We all know people that have been chased by dogs, and coyotes can be triggered by that same behavior of somebody running and moving away. It can be play or chase behavior as well. So being aware of your surroundings, putting your earbuds away, not being, standing around talking on your cell phone, especially in an area that might have coyote activity, and then be prepared. You can use aversion conditioning techniques, very simple ones. People carry, shake cans, or they might have an umbrella. If you're a runner, you can have, use a whistle. Whistles are okay in certain circumstances. The problem with using a whistle in an urban scape is that urban wildlife hear horns honking, radios playing, people laughing and yelling, and whistles at sports fields. So some folks that are chronic feeders of coyotes will actually use whistling to bring them in to feed them. And so being aware, go to our website and look at our resources, keeping coyotes away, understanding. The worst thing we can do is give inconsistent, really laissez-faire messaging to coyotes. We need to be firm and assertive at all counts. And if you happen to be walking a small dog, you pick your small dog up. If you have a small child, you pick your small child up, or bring that dog or child close to you and be very assertive. Now, if it's during, seasonal milestones, I mean, to look at coyotes and we should be doing, we have to look at the seasonal milestones as well. So if it's the time of year where they're raising pups and they start behaving in a very bluff charging or arching their back or howling or barking because there's a dog around being walked off leash, that's a problem. So residents need to be aware what's happening in wildlife world right now. Is this denning season or is it mating season coming up in the middle of February? We'll have the mated pair that will also be very closely seen together. So you'll see more pairs together in that month period leading up to the middle of February as well. And so being aware of that and educating yourself. And really the last thing that we want to have is people behave in an inappropriate way because they're afraid, because they don't have the tools or the strategies to know what to do. Popping an umbrella. But if you're out running, you got to put those earbuds away. So you're aware of what's happening. And if there's food on a trail system or in a parking lot or by a park bench or a picnic table, that has to be reported. Get the name of the person that you speak to through the city official system. Make sure, because we ask so many, well, who'd you speak to? Oh, well, I don't know. Well, it's not helping anybody. You need to know who you spoke to, what guidelines they provided to you, if any, and then also, talk about it with your neighbors as well.
I know from time to time we'll run into bears on the golf course during the golfing season, and we have a bit of a running joke that you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the slowest golfer in your foursome.
I was going to say, I appreciate all that advice, Leslie, but Scott's pretty fast. I think he might actually, believe it or not, when you look at him, you wouldn't think so, but he might be able to outrun that coyote, I was thinking.
I don't know, 40, I don't know. Can you run that fast? I don't think so.
No.
You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. I know when you look at him, you don't think so.
Leslie, not even in my prime. And let me tell you, I am well past my prime.
For sure. It was interesting what you said in your first answer that I didn't follow up on. I'm sorry, but the headlines are triggered when we hear about an attack or a city reports an attack. And you're right. Maybe we need to ask some more questions about it. And I guess what I'm wondering from you is your organization, are you seeing more attacks? Like, are there more reported attacks, say, in the last year or two than there were in previous years? Or is this mostly just more headlines about those attacks?
Well, I think with COVID, people they kind of changed their behavior in the outdoors as well. So you had either people staying at home more and were feeding wildlife, or you had people going out and engaging in outdoor activities as well. So I think we need to look at what's happening in the community. And if we get hung up on the numbers, okay, we're talking about a coyote biting people, then are we looking at how many times people are bitten by dogs? So exponentially, if you look at that kind of statistic, and I mean, yes, there's way more dogs than coyotes, but most of us share our human space with some form of a pet. And so we have a greater risk of being hit by a champagne, cork, or a garage door hitting us, or a dog biting us than we do a coyote. But what I would like to then expand on that and say, okay, what is happening here? Are there reports of feeding going on that municipalities are not acting on? So if reports are coming in and they sit there in Cyberville and there's not any active investigation being done, then you're not going to mitigate that. And so cases that go on, eventually at some point, there could be an escalation of demand behavior from a coyote towards a person. And that's what you see when you see these random cases where, and you know what, wildlife can also go through situations where maybe they're injured and we don't know it. We can't see the injury. People do pretty cruel things to one another and animals as well. And so an animal could have an injury, which is impacting their behavior as well. But, when a coyote is biting a person, typically that's related to incidents where this is an expression of food demand. They're not getting fed. They've been hand fed by somebody in the community or maybe multiple people. And so this coyote has mixed messages. So, I think looking at statistics and data, and maybe there's cases as well where somebody has been feeding a coyote that got bit and they didn't report it. So it can go the other way. So I think looking at the circumstances and what processes, what's the standard operational procedures of every municipality when they start to get an increase in coyote sightings, because typically coyotes just out of the blue don't start to bite people.
And you're clearly trying to be diplomatic about it, but really this is people's fault. People should not be feeding coyotes.
Well, again, it's like the bears, right? You have a bird feeder out in the summer months. What do you think's going to happen in bear country? Bears show up, other animals show up. And, again, we don't want to put the finger onto one particular, aspect of society, but there is a gap here. There's a cognitive bridging that just is not happening between residents, between city officials, and then also with the media. We all have to work together, and we do not need to be feeding wildlife to be loving and respectful and carry reverence for them. And I think the messaging is very confusing. Plus, then you have photographers as well. There's some really wonderful ethical photographers out there, but unfortunately, we have seen that as an increase of changing wildlife behavior to a point where, we have to actually consider encouraging municipalities to have bylaws in place that include harassment and baiting and luring by photographers. That's how serious it is.
Have you ever seen one?
Live?
In a place? Yeah, like in a
person?
place where, you wouldn't expect to?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've seen a coyote. Have you?
Same. No, I have not. A bear, yes.
Yes.
On the golf course. We talked about that in the clip.
Yeah.
With Leslie and a fox.
I had a bear walk right through my yard two falls ago, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah, just right on the side of my house. I was like, holy God. I got snapped a couple pictures of it. Our listeners in Southern Ontario are probably like, what's going on? Where do these guys
Where do you guys live?
Where do you live? Yeah, there are bears up here, and they're hungry sometimes.
They are indeed. But like Leslie said, there are certain things and precautions that you need to take and things that you shouldn't do. So check out their website. Some great information at Coyote Watch Canada. All right, that's it for us. Time to get our headaches back because baseball season, it did not end well last night. Who knows what tonight brings.
What a nightmare. We could both be crying by Monday.
It is going to be a very long weekend.
It's going to be a tough weekend.
All right, that's it for us tonight on this Thursday. Closerlookpodcast.ca. Sign up. We'll send you episodes straight to your inbox, and happy to do that, just that. And any feedback on the show, comments, questions, we'd love to hear from you. Closerlook@villagemedia.ca. For Michael Friscoletti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Enjoy your Thursday evening, what's left of it. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7, right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.